Ever wondered why some Camaros from 1979 are quietly worth more than cars twice their age? Stick around, because this one, the 1979 Chevrolet Camaro Z28, hides more engineering secrets than most people realize. This wasn't just another muscle car rolling off the line during the malaise era. It was Chevrolet's clever answer to tightening regulations, shrinking horsepower numbers, and a market that was losing faith in performance cars. And yet, this Z28 managed to become the best-selling year of the entire second-generation Camaro. Number 1. This was the best-selling Z28 in Camaro history up to that point. Chevrolet moved close to 84,000 Z28 units in 1979 alone.
That number is almost hard to believe when you consider this was smack in the middle of the horsepower drought of the late 70s. Emissions laws had gutted engine output across the entire industry, yet buyers still lined up for this car. Why? Because Chevrolet understood something simple. People didn't just want raw power anymore. They wanted a car that looked fast, felt aggressive, and gave them an identity, even if the numbers under the hood weren't what they used to be. Number 2. The engine was actually a compromise, born out of necessity. The standard Z28 came with a 350 cubic inch V8, but thanks to emissions controls, it only produced around 175 horsepower. Compare that to the muscle car era just a decade earlier, and it sounds disappointing. But here's the hidden part.
Engineers had to completely rework camshaft timing, compression ratios, and exhaust flow just to keep that engine legal while still giving it enough personality to carry the Z28 name. It was less about brute force and more about squeezing out every bit of drivability within a very narrow legal window. Number 3. California buyers got a different, weaker engine entirely. Because California had stricter emission standards than the rest of the country, Camaros sold there received a slightly different version of the 350 engine, tuned specifically to meet those tougher rules. This means two 1979 Z28s, both technically the same model, could have noticeably different performance depending on which state they were originally sold in.
Most owners today don't even realize their car might be running a state-specific engine calibration from over 4 decades ago. Number 4. The hood scoop wasn't just for looks, it was functional airflow engineering. The Z28's shaker-style hood scoop was designed to pull cooler outside air directly into the engine, rather than relying purely on hot underhood air. This is called cold air induction, and even though the horsepower gains were modest by today's standards, it was a genuinely thoughtful piece of engineering during a time when most manufacturers were focused purely on meeting regulations, rather than improving performance. Number 5. The suspension setup borrowed serious lessons from racing.
Chevrolet equipped the 1979 Z28 with specific front and rear stabilizer bars, firmer shocks, and a wider stance compared to the base Camaro. This wasn't just marketing language. The engineering team actually pulled tuning philosophy from Trans Am racing programs to make the street car handle with more confidence through corners. For a car built in an era when most manufacturers were cutting corners to save money, this level of attention to chassis dynamics was surprisingly serious.
Number 6. The interior featured one of the first factory information clusters aimed at feeling futuristic. Inside, buyers could option a special instrument panel with a tachometer, trip odometer, and gauges designed to make the driver feel like they were sitting in something closer to a fighter jet than a standard family coupe. It sounds simple today, but at the time, this was Chevrolet's way of proving that even with less horsepower, the driving experience could still feel special and modern. Number 7. The body styling changes were more than cosmetic. They were aerodynamic experiments. The front fascia, spoiler, and rear valence were redesigned not just to look aggressive, but to actually reduce drag and improve high-speed stability.
Wind tunnel testing at the time was still fairly primitive compared to today, but Chevrolet's designers used what data they had to shape the nose and tail sections in a way that noticeably improved airflow compared to earlier Camaro generations. Number 8. This generation Camaro helped save the nameplate from cancellation. During the mid to late 70s, there were serious internal discussions at General Motors about whether the Camaro was still worth producing, especially as fuel economy regulations tightened and muscle cars fell out of favor. The strong sales success of the 1979 Z28 played a direct role in convincing GM executives that there was still a real market for performance-oriented coupes, essentially buying the Camaro nameplate more time to survive into the 80s.
Number 9. The paint and stripe packages were engineered to trick the eye into seeing more speed.
Chevrolet's design team used long horizontal stripes, subtle two-tone paint splits, and carefully placed decals specifically to make the car look longer, lower, and faster than it actually was. This is a classic design psychology trick still used by car manufacturers today, and the 1979 Z28 is one of the clearest examples of visual performance branding overcoming an era of genuinely limited horsepower. Number 10. Surviving unmodified examples are now becoming genuinely rare collector pieces.
Because so many of these cars were driven hard, modified, or eventually scrapped over the decades, finding a numbers-matching 1979 Z28 in original condition today is far harder than most people expect. Collectors have started paying serious attention to this model, not because it was the fastest Camaro ever built, but because it represents a very specific and important turning point in American automotive history, right when the industry was fighting to keep performance culture alive during one of its most restricted periods. So when you really look at the 1979 Chevrolet Camaro Z28, it's not just a car defined by horsepower numbers on a spec sheet.
It's a story about engineers finding clever workarounds during one of the most challenging regulatory periods in automotive history, and somehow still creating a car that people genuinely wanted to buy, drive, and eventually preserve. If you found these hidden details interesting, you're going to love diving deeper into this era of American muscle cars, because the 70s hide far more engineering creativity than most people ever give it credit for.